guys, welcome. All right, so I already did the session, and it didn't stream out to YouTube. But you know what? I love my students so much. I'm going to do a quick wrap up of the of what I just talked about. Okay, so I'm going to just go blast through this real quick for you. I'm going to show you some altered chords and altered scales. We're going to talk about how to jam over it. Practice with Willie, more laid back. See, I'm just like kind of wearing my civilian clothes, you know, no jazz edge shirt. You can ask me questions on YouTube. So this right now is just going out to my YouTube people. So thanks for joining me, guys. Go ahead and chat in any questions you might have. All right, altered chords. Two different versions here, okay? So we have C7 like this or C7 like this. Notice I have an 8 VA on this first A chord because it's too low to play it down there, so I'd have to play it up here, okay? So on this C7 chord, what we're doing is we're keeping the 3rd and 7th, we're moving the 9th and the 13th like this, okay? They're kind of moving out like that, right? So like, see how this bottom note moves down a half step, this top note moves up a half step. This creates a C7 altered chord. This is with a sharp 9, this is with a flat 13. We call it ALT or altered because writing in sharp 9, flat 13 starts to muck up the chords. It's a lot to read. So C7 alt, it's a lot faster to be able to read that. So that's one version. The other version is this. Okay, so notice that motion there of going from here or going from here. So see how the bottom note moves up, the top one moves down, or in this one, this note moves down, this one moves up. So one way they're moving like this, the other one they're moving like this. Okay, so this one they're moving out. In this inversion, they're moving in. In both cases, notice that the 3rd and the 7th are staying exactly where they were. All right. So now practice with Willie is also relaxed. It means I take a sip of my coffee. All right. So this C7 altered, I'm playing that C altered scale in the right hand, fingering 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So that's C7 altered. We're also going to move down to B flat 7 altered. Again, see the 3rd and 7th. Flat 13, sharp 9. B flat 7 altered scale, 1, so second finger here, then 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. The altered scale is a melodic minor scale ascending, starting up a half step. So this is a B minor, this is a B melodic minor ascending scale, okay? And then I just started on B flat, okay? All of this is explained in the site as well. If you just do a search for the word altered, a whole bunch of stuff will come up. All right, so now let's talk about jamming here, okay? So I had a funk track on, but let's go to my swing track here. So the first thing that you should do is just go through and play the chords. All right, so just make sure you can play the chords. Now, it's super important that you know how to play the chords because this is your foundation. Without a good foundation, then you're not going to be able to improvise over the top. You're not just going to play, you know, just the right hand. You need something in the left hand to help accompany. So you want to make sure you have that foundation of those chords. You make sure that you really have them down steady. Now, once you can do that, then the next step is just play the scale going up and down. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So let's move that. Here we go. B flat. Now once you feel comfortable with that, then we can start to get more musical with the scale. And this means that we can move up and down the scale. Okay, and I'm just kind of blasting through this kind of quick right now, but we don't have to always start on the root. Okay, we might start on the 3rd or another note, but we go up a little bit, down a little bit. listen to this example. You tell me if this is musical. I'm going to play two examples, example 1 and example 2, and I want you to chat in. This is an interactive thing. It doesn't matter if you're on YouTube or not, okay? So it's still interactive, even though we got like a 30-second delay. So I'm going to play two examples. You tell me which one sounds more musical to you. All right, here we go. First example. All right, that's the first example. Second example. Okay, so which one sounds more musical to you? The first example or the second example? I'll wait to see who chats that in first. Okay, now I'm going to move on now. So I want to talk about fingering. When we typically practice the scale, we practice it with a certain fingering. Okay, and then there's, you know, and that's great. And the reason that we do that is that creates this rote memory under our fingertips that we know, oh, okay, this is how to play this scale and this is the fingering. However, when we improvise, we don't use that same fingering. I might end up putting my middle finger on E. I might end up putting my fourth finger on E. I need to be adept at being able to move up and down, all right? And it doesn't matter what finger I have on the scale. However, I have to be careful though, because I can get myself and back myself into a corner. So like, listen to if I do this. Oh great, now I'm on my pinky. Well, I can't go up this way, so I'm going to have to go down. Okay. All right, so second. All right, good. Yes, excellent. Second one. The second one sounded more musical. Exactly. Right? Because I'm playing more scalar. Right? So now, to play scalar, you know, you go up a little bit, then kind of come down, then maybe you go back up a little bit further, and then you might like lift up and, you know, move someplace else. And then that's kind of where I was getting to, as well as the lifting up and moving. So if I back myself up into a corner and I'm like, oh, I got my pinky here, but I want to go this way, okay, well, what do I have to do? I just have to lift up. Okay? So you want to practice being able to jam on these two chords and two scales, right? And just be able to move freely over those chords and scales, like this. Go to the other inversion. Okay. So you see how I'm just jamming over that scale, playing different rhythms, kind of going up a little bit, going down. If you find that that's too nerve-wracking for you, like you're just not, you don't like the freedom of that, well then you could say, okay, start on either the third or the seventh of the scale. Here's the third, the seventh, the third. Okay, so give yourself whatever parameters that you need to feel comfortable practicing that. So you could just go up and down the scale for a few days, and then maybe you start on the third or the seventh, and then maybe after a couple of days, then you feel comfortable. All right, let me just kind of explore. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what note you hit, okay? Any wrong note can easily be resolved, especially when playing a dominant seventh chord. A dominant seventh chord, just about anything works over it. Now, if you go and you start to do something like this. Obviously, don't sound too good, now does it, right? So if you're listening to that and you're like, oh, I don't like the sound. Right, so I'm hitting a major seventh on a downbeat, but I could still resolve it. Okay? And quite frankly, in the grand scheme of things, you wouldn't even hear it. I'm hitting a major seventh in both of those chords several times over, and it's still, as long as I resolve it, it sounds okay. How you learn to resolve it is exercises like this, where you take one chord and a scale and you just kind of jam over that. Okay, so to practice, download the iReal Pro jam track and move in between those two chords. The cool thing too is we can move into other styles, okay? We can move it into like a funk style, blues style. We can change the key as well, you know, move it into other keys and then practice it in other keys. So the iReal Pro software is real nice. Now, I did not make the software. I don't support the software. I just use the software, okay? So the tracks to download those, they're all in the Practice with Willie course, okay? This course right here is at the Jazz Edge site. It is not at the Piano with Willie site. It is at jazzedge.com, and it's available for any Jazz Edge or No Bull Piano members, okay? If you're on YouTube, maybe you're catching this and you're not a member of my site, it's all right, no problem. Every other week I do Practice with Willie. It's going to be live. You're welcome to join me live. You don't have to be a member, anything like this. This is just me giving you some information, right? You can check it out. Practice with Willie is not always going to be advanced stuff. It's not always going to be easy. It's just going to be a pish-posh of different ideas. Just the goal is just to engage you in music and get your mind activated about music, okay? If you want the replays, if you want the sheet music, if you want the resources like the backing tracks, then you can check out jazzedge.com for different membership options, okay? All right, so if anyone has any questions, you're on YouTube, go ahead, write in. Okay, yes, second. I said, so, sorry, it's hard for me to read this from here. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. So if you have any questions, go ahead and chat in now. Actually, no, let me, oh, there we go. Hardick asks, hey Willie, can you please guide application of major, minor seventh, and ninth chords? Not quite sure what you mean by guide application of them. I mean, you use them where they're called for. So if you see a major seventh chord, then you're going to play like a major seventh. That would be C major seventh, rootless. Now, here's the thing. I will tell you this. There are basically two ways of playing piano and two ways of playing kind of jazz piano, all right? And again, I like to boil down explanations, okay? So like if you're at the college level, you're a college professor, you're going to tell me, no, Willie, that's not quite right. Okay, yeah, sure, I get it. But if you're brand new to this, you don't need that heady explanation that only serves to confuse you more. So here's the simple explanation of the two different ways of playing jazz piano, solo or group. When playing solo, then you're typically going to have like some roots in your chords. You might be playing roots and then a rootless chord. If you can reach this, then maybe you play the root down there and you play the fifth and the third, or the root. The point is you're going to have roots in your chords if you're playing solo. And when I say playing solo, I mean playing with anyone but a bass player. So now when I say playing with a group, I mean playing with a bass player, right? So if you had a drummer and a guitar player and a saxophone player and you're playing, well, guess what, buddy? You're playing bass, right? There's so many times I've showed up to a gig. I remember a couple of years ago I showed up to a gig and I'm like, hey, who's the bass player? You are. Oh, okay. And you got to be like ready to do that, you know? You're going to be like, oh, okay. You're going to be ready to be able to kick bass in that left hand if you're playing in a solo situation. So again, I'm using my air quotes here because solo can mean you might still have the drummer, the guitar player, and the saxophone player, but if there's no bass player, then in that case, you're really kind of playing solo, all right? And again, what I mean by that is playing solo meaning you're taking care of the root motion. Because one thing that's kind of cool about that when you're dealing with the root motion is like I can do. I could do pedal points. I could change the harmony. Especially like during my solo, I could like go crazy and do all this different stuff if I'm in charge of the bass. So you have those two different tracks. So I spent a lot of time talking about the solo track, okay? The group track. If you're playing with a bass player, then you're typically going to be playing your rootless chord voicings, okay? All the instruction on rootless chord voicings, all back at the Jazz Edge site. I don't have time right now to go through explaining all of that, okay? But basically what you're doing is you are taking a chord, like a C major 7th, you're ditching the root, keeping the 3rd and the 7th of the chord, and then typically adding in a couple of tensions. Here I'm adding in the 9th and the 5th. If I play minor, it's the 9th and the 5th. If I play dominant, it's the 9th and maybe the 13th, or maybe flat 9 and flat 13. Or in this case today, flat 13, sharp 9, okay? An altered chord, all right? All right, so I don't see any other questions, so I'm out of here. All right, so thank you guys very much. I'll see you in 2 weeks for another piano practice with Willie session, and I'll talk to you